You can now support this channel on Patreon. If your goal was to create the most bingeable TV show ever, I think you'd come up with something pretty close to Death Note. This show is incredibly fast-paced. Watching it feels like being strapped to a rocket. So what exactly does it mean to be fast-paced? And what is pacing? You'll often hear critics use the words, but it usually feels undefined. To me, pacing describes how quickly and how smoothly a story moves from beat to beat, from scene to scene, and from episode to episode. In his book, Story, Substance, Structure, Style, and the Principles of Screenwriting, Robert McKee outlines the units of storytelling. You can break acts into sequences, sequences into scenes, and scenes into beats. He calls a beat the smallest element of structure. It's an exchange of behavior in action-reaction. Something happens,
Let your action figure and save the galaxy near you!
and that causes something else to happen,
To infinity and beyond!
and that keeps repeating until we've created a scene. A scene is when the value-charged condition of the character's life changes. So if they start the scene happy,
Come in, Buzz Lightyear. This is Star Command. Buzz
Star
Lightyear.
Command!
the scene isn't over until they're miserable. Note, this has nothing to do with time or location. A scene can move between multiple settings over the course of hours and still be one scene. I think a big problem a lot of blockbuster movies have is that they stretch out a single story beat for most of the final act of a movie. When you can summarize 30 minutes of a film with, "they fight," that's a problem. So let's take a look at the pacing of what I consider to be the most tense episode of Death Note. Episode 7, Overcast. So spoilers up until this episode. We start in the middle of a tense situation. This woman has information that will expose Light, the protagonist, as the serial killer named Kira. Light has to learn this woman's real name so that he can use the magical Death Note to kill her before she reaches police headquarters. Even though this episode is only 21 minutes long, it has, by my count anyway, 42 story beats. That means we're getting a new beat every 30 seconds, which is insanely fast. Now, the episode is arranged into 10 scenes. 4 of these are devoted to the B story, and are all very short. They're used to punctuate the big moments in the main story, which is why I'd say that the episode is structured more like a traditional 1-hour network drama than it is a half-hour TV show. If you look at the structure of half-hour comedies, they typically have 3 or 4 parts. A really short teaser at the beginning, often unrelated to the rest of the episode, followed by an Act 1 that sets up a problem, and an Act 2 where it is solved. Sometimes they have a short scene afterwards that's called a tag. But basically it's a 2-act structure: setup, resolution. And many Death Note episodes follow that structure. In this one, the first 3 scenes of the main story set up the problem. But even though the show is burning through story beats, it also finds a way to linger within moments of tension. It does this by using internal monologues. In fact, 10 of the 17 beats that make up these 3 scenes happen entirely in Light's head.
Calm down. You know what needs to be done. Just find out her real name.
This is a convention of anime ported over from manga in a way that it usually isn't when American comic books or novels are adapted for the screen. Now, narration is often seen as a lazy technique, but it works within the world of Death Note, where the characters constantly scrutinize every gesture. They have to guard their true thoughts from the world. This creates a dissonance, a clash between the mundane visuals and the frantic, panicked inner thoughts of the characters.
If this phone rings, it's all over for me. What am I gonna do?
It's this dissonance that we find magnetic. The tension in every scene is, can Light keep his thoughts hidden? On the most granular level, the narration also masks the beats of the story. We're given the impression that Light's thoughts are out of control, but the writers are taking us through his logic step by step, bringing dramatic clarity to the situation he's in. They consistently blend exposition with tension, and that keeps us hooked. These 3 scenes are followed by one short scene at the end of the act that is used to recap the situation. It's a rare misstep, I feel, and it exists only because the show is about to cut to a commercial break, so otherwise we can safely ignore it. The final 2 scenes resolve the problem. In these scenes, we ditch the internal monologue that dominates the first half and are launched into the action. Light improvises his solution, and we get a new beat with just about every line, as the 2 characters react to one another until finally, Light succeeds.
Because I'm Kira.
But there is a deeper structure than that, one that resembles a 1-hour drama. Most 1-hour dramas have a teaser plus 4 to 6 acts. With so many commercial breaks to get through, hour-long dramas are structured in a way so that there is always some kind of climax right before the commercials. In this episode, every scene in the main story ends on one of these big moments. Mystery.
What's so funny to you?
Revelation.
He's reacted the same way every time her name comes up. An alias.
New obstacle.
I'd like to go there by myself, if you don't mind.
Cliffhanger.
I was hoping I could speak with Elle directly.
In effect, the episode treats its B story like the commercial break, and it treats its scenes like acts. The series is so bingeable because it has compressed a format designed for a 1-hour structure into half that time, and then sped it up even more by having more beats per minute than some of the most adrenaline-pumping dramas. And it does all this in an episode that's just about 2 people walking down a street. So from beat to beat, the story maintains our interest by always putting the characters in some sort of tense situation. It lets us know their true thoughts, dramatizing the disconnect between what they're thinking and what they're doing. These beats build to turning points that define how we move from scene to scene. Now, be warned, these techniques are easy to overuse and can be seen as cheap. You don't want to create a story that's an endless series of empty cliffhangers, and keeping an audience's interest is not the same as creating compelling characters. But Death Note's tight writing style is a recipe for creating outstanding standalone episodes within a larger narrative. The episodes have one specific goal and it feeds into the main arc, and that's something of an endangered species these days with the rise of streaming services and binge watching, where every episode sort of blurs into the next. There is a tangible progress made in each episode of Death Note, and you can track this in the relationship between Light and the man trying to unmask him, Elle. Their relationship changes drastically every other episode, putting Light into increasingly compromising situations where his identity is nearly discovered. Pacing is one of the most difficult elements of storytelling to master. Every story has a ton of information it needs to convey to the audience, information that can weigh the story down. But if you're looking to craft a narrative that is the right kind of bingeable, mix tension into as many beats of the story as you can. Earn your cliffhangers and tell complete stories with every installment. Death Note does this so well that you don't even realize how breathless the story has made you until the tension is finally released.
Then goodbye, Naomi Misura.
Many thanks to Audible for sponsoring this video. If you want to know more about story beats and story structure, then I highly recommend listening to the aptly named Story by Robert McKee. Of all the screenwriting books I've read, I consider this one the best entry point into the craft of storytelling. Go to audible.com/justwrite or click on the link in the description below to create an account and get a free audiobook with your 30-day trial. That book is yours forever because even if you cancel your membership, you can keep the book you downloaded. It's totally risk-free to try. I really love listening to audiobooks while I work on these videos. They help me make the most out of every day by filling up the gaps in my schedule with self-improvement opportunities. So remember to go to audible.com/JUSTWRITE so that they know who sent you. And thanks so much to you guys for watching, liking, and subscribing. This is the first video I've made since launching a Patreon account, so special thanks to the patrons. And if you guys want to support the channel yourself, you can do so at patreon.com/justwrite and get access to some bonus content. New videos every 2 weeks, so I'll see you soon.